This is Tom Young, and we're going to be moderated by Glenn Thayer. He's coming into the webinar here in just a second, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. The webinar today is going to talk specifically about Google AdWords. And let's take a look at our webinar objectives. First of all, this is an interactive learning session, so you'll be able to interact with us by asking questions and taking polls and giving us data and feedback. And also keep in mind that this is a marketing presentation, not so much technology, but marketing, because we want to take a strategic view of Google AdWords, and from that develop an action plan so that you can actually see results in your business and see marketing results for your website. And I have a few outcomes I'd like to see from this webinar. One is that we get more qualified traffic into your website. Also, we want to be able to monitor and set very specific ROI and conversion goals for you. And this is something that on many websites is lacking, and Google AdWords is really changing the whole playing field of how websites can monitor and track conversions and set very specific ROIs, not just for what you spend in Google AdWords, but for what you spend on all your website marketing, with the bottom line being that we want to increase website conversions, get more brand exposure on the web for you for all searches, and then also, like I said, increase your sales and grow your business. So let's jump into Google AdWords here real quick, and I want to just, for those of you that are new to this, give you a sense of what it is and what it looks like on a search. This is an example of a search for flowers. Very popular search. Would be a nationwide search with a lot of different results. At the top of the search, you'll see the Google AdWords listings, and these are ads that are placed by people and that are set up in accounts in Google and that are only charged to the account if people click. So it's a very efficient form of advertising. And you have ads along the top, and you have ads along the right side of the page. Now, what's interesting about these ads is that there's a whole bunch of strategy and setup and thought that goes into this, and that's what we're going to talk about in this webinar. But the bottom line is this is what Google AdWords look like, and I'm sure you've seen them many times on the page. Now, what I want to do is very quickly have Glenn throw up a poll, because I want to get a sense of how many people are actually using Google AdWords, because as I do this presentation, I want to be able to know exactly how many people are using this and how many people are new to it. It'll help me with my level of knowledge. And I'm going to come out of the slides here so I can see the results of the poll. And it looks like it's about a 60-40 split, about 55 to 60% looks like they are using AdWords here, and we're just about done with it, with about 80% of the people having voted. So I'm going to, one more time here, try to see if I can get Glenn in so he can share some of his thoughts as well. And Glenn, are you there?
Can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So we've got Glenn back. So Glenn's going to actually talk through some of the polls, and it looks like 89% have voted. Glenn, I'm going to let you take the poll from there, because I'm going to go, what I'd like to do is actually jump into some of the most commonly held questions that I've been presenting on pay-per-click advertising for about 11 years, and these are really the most common questions that I hear. But give us the results of that poll real quick, Glenn, so I can share that with everybody. We can share it.
Well, we have almost everybody voted already, and so we've got about 43% of the people are using AdWords right now, and about 58% no, so I'm going to make an assumption here that a lot of the folks on the call are really looking to get explained how Google AdWords work and how it can work for them.
Yeah, and what we found, too, is that even if you have been using it, it still can be very difficult and very complex. And it's interesting to see how Google explains and teaches this program to folks, because it is over the heads of a lot of people, and it really takes several months of hands-on experience with it to get a sense of what it's about. But in the webinar, what I want to do is give you these fundamentals, so when you actually jump into the Google back end and start working with your own account, you'll have the strategy and the fundamentals in place. But let's go through some of the most commonly heard questions, and we've kind of answered what it is, what is pay-per-click, and what is Google AdWords. It's the concept of paying for position in search engines, but only paying if people click, so it's very efficient. and also being able to monitor and track your return. Now, pay-per-click's been around for quite a while. It started with a company, it was actually called GoTo.com, that later became Overture, and then later was purchased by Yahoo. And they're still actually in existence through Yahoo, but Google has since come in and dominated the marketplace for pay-per-click. And so kind of in a summary, that's what it is. Pay-per-click really is the foundation for the success of Google and why Google has such a strong share price in the stock market and why they have such a high value. In fact, they may be one of the most valuable companies in the world right now, and a lot of it has to do with pay-per-click. So it's a very important advertising resource and web resource for you. All companies should know about it, especially their marketing and sales teams. Another question I get, well, that's all great and good, but I don't click on ads. Do people click on ads? And yes, they do. And in fact, in user testing, we've seen people that tell us they never click on ads in user testing. And the reason they do that is because Google wants you to click on ads. And so they set up the searches and the formatting and the usability so that you will click on these ads and not even know it. So we've seen this. It's very common in user testing for people to say, I never really click on ads, during the interview. And then as they start searching the web and looking for things, you'll see them clicking on ads all the time. If you look at the pure numbers, a rule of thumb is that about 30% of web searchers will click on an ad. And then also, we get this question too, can I just do good search engine optimization? Isn't that enough to get my site listed in the search engines and the organic listings? And what we recommend is that you do both. You need to have brand exposure throughout the Google ad network and Google searches in both organic and pay-per-click. So those are going to be real important to do both. And we actually, our first webinar that we've done talks specifically about search engine optimization and how to get listed in the organic listings. Now we're going to talk about the paid listings so you can really cover your bases with Google and really expose your brand to a lot of web users. Will competitors click on ads? This is another question that I get asked quite frequently, and they might. Yes, they might. And actually, it's called click fraud, and it is a little bit of a problem, but usually not for the middle-sized or smaller companies. Your competitors aren't that interested in you to do that, but larger companies have to take protections against this, and Google does have ways of monitoring against click fraud. And they can audit your account at any time to make sure that click fraud is not happening. Now, we're not going to talk about Yahoo and MSN, which is the Bing search engine, strictly because of market share. Google has close to 70% market share, and it takes enough energy just to get Google going. If you get Google going and you're successful, then we can come back and look at Yahoo and MSN maybe to supplement what you're doing with Google. What is the future of Google AdWords? Well, it's real interesting to see this evolve over the last almost 12 years now. Google AdWords will always remain a strong fixture in web marketing. I think what they're going to do is even focus more on conversions and tie more tools into the success of the advertisers so that people aren't wasting their money on Google or feeling like they're wasting their money. And I think that's going to be really the future is Google's going to go from the next step, which is from going from clicks and paying for clicks to paying for conversions or sales or results. And yes, Google
Tom,
Ads. Yes, go ahead, Glenn.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up before we move on from this page, as far as people clicking on ads and search engine optimization, one of the big things, and maybe you can explain this, is you talk about search engine optimization and that being enough to be able to get high rankings on Google's page. And then people clicking on ads, how many people click on those ads instead of going into if you'll say you're ranked number 3 in your organic search, do more people still click on those ads at the top to go to your page?
Yeah, if your ad is at the top, you're going to get more clicks. And actually there's a lot of formulas and metrics behind where your ad should be placed based on how much you spend to get it there and what your return is. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the presentation, but really the bottom line is you want to be close to the top for the most appropriate niche terms that you go after. And keeping in mind that, roughly 30% of people that do a search will click on a paid listing.